Hey, if you're a man in your 40s who's been focusing on lifting for gaining strength, you've likely heard something like, powerlifting isn't functional. It's limited, it's too one-dimensional, and it doesn't transfer over well to real life. But the question that a lot of people don't think to ask is, compared to what? Because if your goal is to keep your muscles strong, your tendons strong, your bones strong as you age, powerlifting might actually be a lot more functional than you think. Or it might create deficits that you don't realize until later. If you're new here, my name is Aaron Kubitz, and for over 20 years I've helped busy guys get leaner, stronger, and more athletic without living in the gym. And one thing that I've learned is that most training styles have value, but most training styles also have deficits. In today's video, I'll discuss what powerlifting does extremely well, where it falls short for men over 40, when it can be an extremely useful tool, and when it isn't. So before we answer the question of is powerlifting functional or not, we need to define what functional actually means. If you ask the average guy out there, he'll say, fitness that I can use in everyday life. And I think that's a pretty good definition, but it is incomplete. The simple, most useful term for functional is fit for the intended use. And by that definition, powerlifting can be extremely functional for building maximal strength. But then the question comes back. Life doesn't just require maximal strength. So how does powerlifting help you to do things outside the gym other than just lifting heavy weights? To understand that question, we need to look at the physical qualities that powerlifting specifically develops and the qualities that it falls short in. If you need to lift a couch, move some logs or rocks in your backyard, or lift your wife, powerlifting can be very useful. But one thing that often gets missed in the discussion of strength is that strength is only as useful as what you can express. Let me explain. So when you are using dumbbells, barbells, etc., machines at the gym, you have perfect grip. You are in a stable environment, right? But in the real world, you don't have perfectly formed handles to grip and grasp things. So even if you've tried lifting a person like your wife, right, you'll notice that the weight shifts, that the weight is unevenly distributed across the body, as opposed to a barbell where you have even amounts of plates on both sides. When you are trying to grab a log or a rock, you often have to grip it in awkward ways. And so, while you might have the strength to move 300 pounds, try lifting a 300-pound rock. You will find that it's a much different situation. Then the next piece that we have is power, right? And this is a bit of a misnomer because right inside of the word powerlifting, the first word is power, right? But powerlifting actually has very little to do with power. Power is the rate of force development, explosive strength. Power can help you to be a better power lifter, but you aren't specifically training power when you are powerlifting. By contrast, most activities in real life do require some elements of power, and most sports definitely do. In fact, most sports require a combination of strength, endurance, and explosive strength, right? So not just how much weight can you lift, how quickly can you produce force. This is involved in things like sprinting, jumping, throwing a punch, or even everyday activities like slipping on a patch of ice and being able to react quickly enough to catch yourself before you fall down, bruise yourself, break something, etc. The last piece we have to look at when it comes to the functionality of powerlifting in terms of how well does this transfer to my life outside of the gym has to do with the limited range planes of motion or ranges of motion that powerlifters typically work in, right? If you think about the bench press, you're going straight up and down. With the squat, you're going straight up and down. With the deadlift, you're going straight up and down. right? Now you might do some accessory work, and most advanced powerlifters do accessory work. But again, if you're doing accessory work to work on, maybe you're doing rows, again, same plane of motion. Doing some biceps curls, same plane of motion. Doing some pull-ups or chin-ups, same plane of motion. Now of these, I would say the pull-ups and the chin-ups are going to prepare you to be a little bit more athletic just because they're using your core and everything else in addition to the biceps, but that's beside the point in this particular video. The thing that I'm talking about is rotational movement, right? So when you're playing sports in real life, there's usually a rotational component to what you're doing. You're not just producing force straight up and down like this. There's usually changes in direction. Sometimes you're standing on one leg and producing force. You're running in one direction. You have to stop and quickly produce force in the other direction. So that is a combination of having power and also rotational strength at the same time. Powerlifting is going to make you really strong in one plane of motion, but if that's all you do, you will find yourself not fully prepared for real life. And then the last piece, another example here, just to really bring this home, would be like the bench press, right? People will say the bench press isn't functional. Well, in terms of building muscle and strength, it's very functional. Why? Because you're in a very stable environment. You don't have to worry about stabilizing yourself too much. Yeah, you got the bar moving a little bit like this, so the rotator cuff has to stabilize a little bit. But when you compare that to something like the push-up, where you have to keep your core braced while you're doing it, so you're protecting the spine, you're strengthening all of this kind of stuff. Even your legs are involved to a certain degree when you're doing the push-up, right? With powerlifting, or with doing a bench press, you don't have that, right? But does that make it an unfunctional exercise? No, it's very functional for strength and muscle building because it optimizes for those functions. But if that's all you do and you're not doing push-ups and variations of push-ups, it might leave you feeling inadequate in a real life situation. You think, man, I'm really strong in the gym, but then when I go out in real life, I can't fully express that strength because I haven't trained the skill set to be able to use that in different contexts and different varieties. So definitely train the bench press, but don't limit yourself to that. So in conclusion, powerlifting is very functional for developing maximal strength. It's excellent at that. But it doesn't adequately train the other qualities that you need to stay capable and athletic after 40. Things like muscular endurance, speed, power, agility, even hypertrophy training can help to even assist and make you a better powerlifter. It has value, but powerlifting by itself is an incomplete form of fitness. Hey, if you're a guy in your 40s who is interested in continuing to train hard after 40 without constantly feeling beat up, go ahead and hit subscribe. This is the place where we talk about how to gain strength, muscle, and athleticism without spending all of your time in the gym and without beating up your body in the process. If you got value out of this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Some more guys like you can start training smarter so that they can train longer and stay strong, capable, and athletic for decades. Get lean, stay strong, and perform better in life.